Game 5. White, J.R. Capablanca. Black, A.Kreymbourg. New York, 1910. Queen's Pawn opening. Capablanca plays so quiet in opening that it would require a miracle to make something out of it. Somehow a miracle does appear. Capablanca exchanges a piece here and a piece there, when lo and behold, the scene is changed and the position on the board transformed to an endgame with all 4 rooks assuming the principal roles, while Capablanca, as befitting to the magician in charge, is endowed with a slight advantage. d4, d5, knight f3, knight f6, bishop f4. The development of this bishop is usually delayed until the opponent has played e6, locking in his queen bishop. The masters discovered long ago, though, that the most aggressive moves do not always bring about the best results. A move that is fairly good, such as this one, but less analyzed, is likely to throw the opponent on his own resources and increase one's winning prospects. e6. But this is too meek. Black should try to seize the initiative by c5 with this likely continuation. e3, queen b6 with unremitting pressure on the queen side. Queen c1, knight c6, c3, bishop f5, d takes c5 in order to develop the queen's knight with gain of time. Queen takes c5, knight bd2, rook c8, knight b3, queen b6, queen d2, e6, bishop d3, bishop e4, with equality, at least, as Maroczy with black demonstrated in his game against Capablanca at New York in 1924. Back to the game. After e6, e3, c5, c3, knight c6, bishop d3, bishop d6, bishop takes d6, queen takes d6, knight bd2, e5, d takes e5, knight takes e5, knight takes e5, queen takes e5, bishop b5 check, bishop d7, queen a4, queen c7. Necessary in order to castle. Clearly, black must not play bishop takes b5, as after queen takes b5 check cost him a pawn. So queen c7, castles queen side, castles king side, bishop takes d7, knight takes d7. Here, if queen takes d7, queen takes d7, knight takes d7, knight e4, d takes e4, otherwise a pawn is lost. Rook takes d7, and white has a rook on the 7th, and winning chances. Back to the game. Knight takes d7, knight f3, queen c6. This looks plausible enough, as the alternative, knight f6, condemns black to wait passively for his opponent to work up an attack. Queen takes c6, b takes c6, knight d2, knight e5. With a little threat of winning the exchange by a knight d3 check, followed by knight takes f2, striking at both rooks. King c2, c4, rook f1, f5, knight f3, knight takes f3. Black should have accepted the challenge and played knight d3, as it offered more practical chances than did a simplified position in which Capablanca was supremely eminent. The knight could not be easily dislodged, any such attempt involving certain risk. A likely continuation was this: b3, rook b8, b takes c4, d takes c4, rook b1 to stop checkmate, rook takes b1, rook takes b1, knight takes f2, knight e5, knight g4, knight takes c4, knight takes h2, rook b7, rook f7, and white can either take the draw by rook b8 check, rook f8, rook b7, and rook f7, or try for a risky win by rook takes f7, king takes f7, knight e5 check, king e6, knight takes c6. Back to the game. After knight f3, knight takes f3, g takes f3, rook a e8. Material is even, but white has a positional advantage. His king stands closer to the center. His rooks have more potential for attack. One rook bears down on black center pawns. The other is ready to seize an open file. His pawn position is superior, black center pawns being unable to move without loss. Capablanca plans to activate his rooks, break up the enemy pawn structure, and then bring strong pressure to bear on the isolated queen-rook pawn. Rook d4. The first step is to prevent f4, which now can be met by e4, followed by rook f d1. So rook f6, evidently to continue with rook g6, and then to the 7th rank. b3, c takes b3 check, a takes b3, king f7, king d3, apparently with the idea of breaking up the center pawns, but Capablanca had something else in mind. Rook e7, rook a1, king e6, a natural move which Capablanca terms a mistake. He recommends instead an attack on the rook pawn by g5. Not at once. Rook h6, which could be met by h4. But g5 followed by rook h6. Back to the game. After king e6, rook to a6, fixes one pawn at a7 while attacking another at c6. Rook c7, but not king to d6 when c4 wins a pawn or two. Rook c7, rook d a4, g5 initiates a counterattack on the king side. The defensive rook f to f7 instead would allow f4 in reply, paralyzing black's position completely. Back to the game. g5, h4. Much better than rook takes a7, rook takes a7, rook takes a7, rook h6, and black regains his pawn with advantage. To the game. h4, g4. It would be fatal to play g takes h4 when rook takes h4 would render black's game desperate. His king could not retreat without the loss of the king-rook pawn, and his rooks could do little. His pawns, if he continued with h6, white's response would be b4. The threat of winning a pawn by b5, supplemented by king d4 if need be, and the further entrance of the king at c5 or e5 should be decisive. Back to the game. g4, king e2, g takes f3 check. As good as there is, attacking the rook pawn is out of the question, as after rook h6, f takes g4, rook takes h4, g takes f5 check, wins the unfortunate rook. While 30 h5 is countered with f4, tying black up completely. A. His pawns would be unable to move. His rooks would be tied to the defense of the queen-rook pawn. C. His king could not retreat without breaking the line of communication with the rooks. Capablanca's winning procedure after 30 rook f7 could be b4, threatening to win a pawn, by b5, or king d3 followed by king to d4 in preparation for the pawn push. Back to the game. After g takes f3 check, king takes f3, rook f7, king e2, king d6, b4, rook b7, h5. A slight inaccuracy according to Capablanca himself. He should have played f4, and if rook g7, h5, rook g2 check, king d3, rook h2, rook takes a7, rook takes a7, rook takes a7, rook takes h5, rook a6 with winning chances. Back to the game. h5, h6. Black misses an opportunity to draw by f4. If then e takes f4, rook b e7 check, king f1, rook takes f4, rook takes a7, rook to e3. Back to the game. After h6, f4, rook g7, king d3, rook g e7, rook a1, rook g7, king d4, rook g2, actually threatening, believe it or not, mate and 1. Such is the power of an aggressive rook. Capablanca plays rook 6 to a2, rook b g7, king d3, rook takes a2, rook takes a2, rook e7. There is no hope in rook g1, rook a6, rook d1 check, king c2, rook h1, b5, rook takes h5, rook takes c6 check, king d7. Rook a6, and the rest is an easy win for white. Back to the game. Rook e7, rook g2, Rook e6, Rook g7, Rook e7. After all its threatening gestures on the queen side, White's energetic rook rushes to force a decision on the king side. Rook g8, c5, practically throwing himself on the sword, but he cannot save his pawns. The threat is Rook h8, Rook e6, Rook f8, winning the king-bishop pawn. If black defends his rook pawn by 44, Rook h7, a dreadful spot for the rook, then Rook g6, check, King d7, Rook f6, still wins the bishop pawn. Back to the game. c5, Rook g6 check, Rook e6, B takes c5 check, King d7, Rook g7 check, King c6. Loses quickly, but there is no hope in Rook e7, c6 check, King d6, Rook g6 check, Rook e6, c7, and black must give up his rook. Back to the game. King c6, Rook takes a7, King takes c5, Rook f7. Black resigns. A highly instructive rook ending.